How's it going, everybody? So this is a special little video that is geared and aimed towards my playtesters, but I'm putting it on the channel, number one, because I can put it on my channel for them to view, and number two, you know, if you want to follow along and watch or whatever, then great. That sounds awesome. You can kind of check out what I'm doing. So again, this is for my playtesters, and this is the first playtest video for a new project. And what I want to do with these videos is, as we move through the playtesting process, I want to kind of just give guidance and what we're looking for. So before we can even start, let's back up the train a little bit and talk about what I'm talking about exactly. So if you don't know, I've been involved in the game industry for quite a bit. I started off my career way back 30 years ago this summer, publishing a pro wrestling simulator. And my career has, you know, alternated between, of course, primarily being a software developer in the commercial world, business world, and doing game design and work for games on the side. So I currently work for a company that works with AAA game studios, and they specialize in testing games specifically. So I've been a part of the QA process for a couple decades, and I have been a part of the games testing industry for a few years. So when it comes to testing games, I have a professional background in it. So how we approach this particular game is going to be more along the lines of what I'm used to in terms of a professionally QA'd game system. So the game in question, knowing that I've been in the games industry for a little bit, this is one of my capstone projects, and this is called Project Killmeister, which is a working title, which will be likely changed closer upon release. And what Project Killmeister is the marriage of two of my very favorite things in life that have gotten me through quite a bit. The first one is heavy metal music. The second one is tabletop wargaming, and I can also include role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons thrown in there as well. But this specifically is a tabletop wargame that I have developed. Now, I have poured a good deal of personal finances into this project, and I will see it to its conclusion. I understand the return on investment for a project like this is not very great. Honestly, when it comes to the game space, it's flooded with all kinds of products, and the behemoths in the room, the games workshops, etc. Of course, they're going to garner the lion's share of players. So I'm doing this because I love it. I'm doing this because this is the game that I want that appeals to people like me. That's it. So I'm not coming at this from a how can I sell models and do things that aren't maybe good for the game but good for my wallet type deal. I'm doing this because I love the game and I want to see the game flourish, and I want to have a game that I can love and enjoy. That's really the bottom line. And you know, its presentation is very important to me. So that's the project. This is a tabletop war game. Now, we'll be using Tabletop Simulator for a lot of our testing, though you can test locally with proxy bases. That's fine. The game is derived off of, so this is what I'm holding in my hands, is a 50 millimeter stand, a base stand. If you play Warhammer, you might recognize this. This is what monsters used to be based on way back in the day. So we want to take this, and basically this is the basic unit of measurement and the basic unit of everything in Project Killmeister. You can fit 4 25 millimeter bases on here, 4 normal size figures. I'm not really honestly sold on 28 millimeter or 32 millimeter heroic scale models like your typical Warhammer or Age of Sigmar models at all. You can do that. But what I want more of a 10 millimeter look, or maybe a 15 millimeter look. 10 millimeter on this guy right here, you can fit 40 guys on one base. And a unit starts with 3 stands. So if you imagine there's 12 guys on here, or excuse me, there's 4 guys on 28 millimeter scale, then a unit of 3 stands would be 12 guys. And then, if you buy 6 stands of a unit, that's 24 models, which is about the size of a Warhammer infantry unit. This would be 120 guys in 10 millimeter for 3 stands and 240 for 6 stands. So it's going to look a lot more epic. It's going to look a lot more like Total War. It's kind of what I'm going for. I'm not settled on the scale yet. And as I go along and talk about the project, you're going to see that scale really doesn't matter because this is the thing that matters here. It's the stand. So a little bit about the game itself, what you're getting into, what you're playtesting, who can playtest. Bunch of questions. All right, so right now I'm in a closed playtest loop, which means that it's essentially by invite only. And I have to do that for legal reasons. So I have an NDA that all the playtesters have to sign. So they can't really talk about the rules and they can't talk about anything that I don't reveal, essentially. So that's only applicable to certain locations. So I have to be very careful about who gets to look at what at this point in the game. All right, so that's playtesting's invite only. Once I get trademarks and whatnot locked down, then we can do more of an open playtest and whatnot. And so if you're just starting the playtest journey with me, this is our ground zero, essentially. And as you get access to the files, there's some things that I'm going to ask you to do. So then we talk a little bit about what is the game. Well, let's look at, I'm going to go ahead and show you, here's my art for the main rulebook, which will be a free download on the Oedicus Tactical Studies website once that's put up. And yes, you can see that's not a typo. It's 107 degrees here in the desert. It's a cool 107 degrees. It's not above 110, so that's a win. So this is the Book of Battles. This is the cover art for the first book, which is the rule book. Now, every book has like a heavy metal feel to it, like an album cover. If it belongs on a heavy metal album cover, I want it in my game. And there's going to be a lot of inspiration that you'll see that have derived from some epic heavy metal album covers that I have seen in my life from the 80s on up, maybe even the 70s. Like you have like Black Sabbath covers that look really cool and things like that. There's going to be a lot of inspiration drawn. It's an homage. It's my paying respects to the artists that helped make me who I am today. So the Book of Battles is the free download book that'll come out. It's the rule book. And so if you take fantasy that you understand, basic fantasy like Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones or Dungeons and Dragons, and you combine that with some sci-fi stuff, because basically if you lived through the 80s or watched any fantasy movies in the 80s, there was a blend of sci-fi and fantasy. That's kind of what this game is going to do. So there's coming out the gate, we've got 4 factions. And 2 of those factions are more of a modern leather jacket look with motorcycles and things like that, Mad Max type stuff. And then you've got 2 like fantasy type factions that'll have the horses and the knights in armor and the demons and the sorcerers and all that stuff. So it's a hybrid approach to the aesthetic where each faction represents a flavor of heavy metal. So we have classic heavy metal represented. That's the stuff like Dio and Iron Maiden, things like that. We have punk metal, which is going to be represented in the radioactive post-apocalyptic wasteland, Mad Max style faction. We got your power metal, which is going to be based off of King Arthur legends. And then we have some doom metal, which are the sorcerer lords, and the sorcerer lords, they can conjure and summon demons and nightmares from other dimensions like Cthulhu type stuff. So those are your starting 4 factions, and they're fighting in the realms of heavy metal. And there's an overarching story that I can expand on with new factions, which I already have in my head, but we got to get to where we got to get. The fiction's very important to me. All right, but we're not playtesting fiction right now. So that's kind of the aesthetic that we're going for. This is heavy metal, and the magic of this world is not like arcane sorcery that you know about it. It's more like it's derived from heavy metal itself. So sorcerers are wielding 6 strings, bass guitars, vocalists. They're tapping into that heavy metal aspect, and they're playing solos which generate this energy, these spells. So that's what your sorcerers are capable of doing in this game. And each flavor, of course, has its own bend, if you will. So there's a magic system with that involved. I'm very big on choices. I'm very big on if you go this path and that closes off this path. I'm not a big fan of modern game design where they just let you have everything in the kitchen sink and it basically writes itself for you. I don't want that. So choices are going to be a big thing in this game. I want people to go, wow, if I take this and I'm missing out on that. And I want to actually make choices matter. Scenarios are going to matter. They're not all the same scenario. I don't want people just to be able to build the utility list that just is good at everything. That should not be a thing. You as a commander are going to need to react and respond to not just your opponent, but to the environment, just like a commander in an army would have to do. Those things are very, very important to me. This game features command and control elements, something that a lot of people hate. I understand that. Again, I love them. This is why I love War Master as a game system. You have to issue orders, and those orders can fail. And your army's not going to do everything you want it to do. That doesn't mean I want it to be hard mode and kneecap people left and right like some War Master could do. There are ways to mitigate some of that. But this is a command and control type game where you have to be able to master the force in front of you and not just be able to be really good at math and figure out the stats and just send that stuff forward and watch it just automatically go. I don't want any of that. All right. So that's talking a little bit about the game. Models. So where we're at in the process right now, there's a lot of art going on. I've got a lot of art contractors doing work for me, working on covers, working on concept art. And a lot of that concept art then has to get taken to digital sculptors who create STL files for me. And so each unit will have roughly 4 individualistic models, and those get put into a file, and then those can be resin printed and represent, they can go on the base. And there should be a base print that you can do. Oh, there's a tail in the someone's here to visit. Say hi to Owen. Hi, Owen. He's quiet right now. So I'm not a logistics guy. I have no desire to own warehouses. I have no desire to rent warehouses or put product into those warehouses that may never move and I have to destroy later. It's a waste. We're in a 3D print world right now, and I know that. I want to have some product on hand for like conventions where I can go to a convention and have like a starter army box and you can buy it and the model's already there for you and that will have a cost associated with it. But I don't want to drive a business model based off of model sales. And some would say, well, you're going to get ripped off. People are going to steal. And that's probably going to happen. And I don't know that I can do anything about that. But what I can try to do is offer a product and hope that it's worth enough where people will, pay for the STL files. So Mantic has gone this route. Well, of course, you can still buy models from them, but they've opened up their STL vault that you can subscribe to. I plan on selling the models via an STL download. And so, you buy a unit and you can print as many of those off as you want. And then there may be a Patreon where you can get some extra stuff that only Patreon subscribers get. I haven't fleshed all that out. I want a product that has actual value, that's not ripping people off, but I also need to be cognizant that I know that if I'm selling STL files, that people are going to grab the STL file and share it with all their friends and pay for it once. What can you do about that? I don't know. So I want to offer value. I want to make it so that you feel like paying the cost for the STL files is worth supporting the effort, basically. So that's where all this is going. There's a lot of concept art and stuff going on. Right now in this stage of the game there's been about 100,000 words written in the past 6 weeks, and we need, the playtesters, we need to get this ironed out. And that's phase 1. So phase 1's really, once you get access to the files, it's read the book, read the rule book, read the army lists, and You know, I want you to look for inconsistencies. I want you to look for things that are confusing. I want you to look for things that can be rules lawyered and they're like loopholes, because I don't want any of that stuff. And you're not hurting my feelings by saying, hey, you know, this wording could probably be made better. That's what I want to hear. In fact, if you don't have a wargaming background at all, even better. Because if you're coming at it fresh and have never seen it before, you're going to be able to relate to that. A little bit not as well. So something may really be confusing to you, and that is going to be something skipped over by the more experienced players because they're just going to assume, right? So that's step one. Go over that book, understand it, find typos, find things that I've missed, find inconsistencies. Let me know so that we can get a clean version of the rules. The second thing I want you to do is open playtest. Now, if you sign the NDA, you can play against other people who have signed the NDA via Tabletop Simulator. You can play solo games if you want. I don't care. The key is, so if you want to play with others, it's got to be against someone who signed an NDA, just so that everything's locked down. And I don't want the rules getting out yet until we have some of that legal stuff taken care of, where we can open that up, the playtesting up a little bit more. So open playtest is kind of what I see most companies I've playtested for. So I've worked and playtested with GW. I've worked and playtested with Conquest. Both of them playtest in similar manners, where it's basically just a free-for-all, and they say, go play these games. Let us know what you think. I'm not a huge fan of that. Now, open playtesting is important in general to get general feedback. And I'm going to ask you to do some open play testing, like I am now. Like phase one, go open play test. Use whatever you've got the rules available to you and just play and find holes, find things that don't make sense, find things that you feel are busted. That's great. I want you to do that. As we get into other phases and as I do other videos, as we move along the path, there's going to be more concentrated testing. There's a heat map, basically, in games where you have different areas, and you have to focus on the different areas. If you just leave it to open testing a lot, players tend to gravitate towards the things they like, and they ignore the things they don't like, and so the game gets skewed in how it's tested. And I've seen it many, many times in my career. I've seen it many, many times as a hobbyist playtesting for these other companies. It's just not a good way to test games, in my opinion. So we will be doing more focused approaches on testing. Like I might say, all right, well, I want you to test, but I want one of you to, if you're going to field like this kind of thing, and I want to get that feel so that we can get what that looks like on the table. But here for the next couple weeks, we're going to be just open read. Let me know your thoughts, and I want you to open playtest is great. I will have the second faction uploaded to the channel tonight. And I am working on getting all 4 finished. We do have concept art coming down for the second faction, probably here in a couple weeks. So I'll be sharing that internally. And I'm looking forward to getting the website and stuff put up for this. So we're in a very exciting time right now because the pieces are coming together enough where you can actually play the game. Deliverables, again, there'll be a free rule book that people will be able to download. STL files you'll be able to buy to be able to print out the game, basically, and play at whatever scale you wish to play at. And then the second book that'll be released is the Book of Campaigns, which is different campaign systems that I've used throughout 25 years of doing wargaming. The third book is the Book of Tales, which are 4 short stories, one for each of the beginner factions, just to kind of let you see the fiction and watch it evolve. Again, big emphasis on fiction, big emphasis on background. That's what hooks me. Not only, heavy metal and the aesthetics and all that, but like the story behind everything. So there's a lot of excitement going on right now. I'm very, very excited to have you guys on board giving me feedback. And, as this program expands, we'll grow with it. So if you're not part of the playtest and you're just kind of watching just to watch what's going on, any feedback you may have is great. Once we go into an open playtest, I'll be happy to bring in some more people to begin testing. If you're in a role-playing game, Ben, I do have some Dungeon Crawl Classics pieces that are going to be going up. So you'll be able to role-play in this world as well, with Dungeon Crawl Classics being the engine that I choose to use in dungeons that kind of walk you through the story as well. So these are all things that excite me. I'm hoping you're excited as well. I'm excited to get heavy metal onto the table, and let's just see what we can do with it. So thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.